Uh, all right, looks like we're live. Welcome, everyone. Andy Tanner here. This is exciting. This is my first live stream type of event. So, great big hand to all the technology guys behind the scene. We're going to have so much fun, and we're here to we're going to do a little Q&A. I'm going to tell you about a first of its kind event that we've done in cooperation with our good friends at Rich Dad. So we're grateful for that partnership. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Andy Tanner. I'll take plenty of time to introduce myself. We've got slides, we've got excitement, and we're just going to have a great time. I've got first, I've got to let you know I've got my good teammates behind me, and Jeff will be manning some chats. So I'll keep my eye and do my best to multitask in this new live streaming experience. But we're here to tell you about the Wealth Freedom Challenge. It's coming up in about a week. I'll give you the exact times. It's going to be on starting next Monday, the 3rd, and it's a 5-day challenge. And so for an hour each day, I'll get you some information. I'll put it up on the screen. But for an hour each day, we're going to talk about your wealth. We're going to talk about freedom, what some people call getting out the rat race. So this is going to be way fun. So I've got my assistant here, director in-house, who some of you know is Marcy. And so Marcy, go and put up the slide and hit all 8 right there. And we'll start with this. This is the Wealth Freedom Challenge. And the purpose of this challenge is reclaiming your retirement dream. And that's a big deal. So let's go back to main camera. We're going to reclaim your retirement dream. And that's a big deal because so many people are losing theirs right now. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to be doing this to announce this event. I'm going to tell you when it's going to be, what you're going to learn, how we're going to learn it, and all of the benefits for showing up. So with that, let's start right here. Let's go back to slides, and we'll just look at slides for a minute. And first thing, great job for attending. There's 2 types of people that when they, some people talk a lot and they yap and they claim they want to find success. Other people, they get a notification. They say, "Hey, stuff's going on. Let's check it out. Let's take some action." So the thing you and I have in common is we're here. We're listening. We're doing this together, and should be a lot of fun. So congratulations for being here. Tell you just a little bit about myself. Those of you that don't know me, my name is Andy Tanner, and over the past, 30 years, I've spoken to 1 million people on the topic of financial education. And we just have so much fun. We make it simple. That's our talent. I didn't become a teacher because I was beating Warren Buffett at an investing contest. I did it because I love traveling the world, and I know how to make stuff simple. But really, I've just been the benefit of someone who's had great mentors in my life. Of course, Kim Kiyosaki and Robert Kiyosaki being among those. And while I've had many mentors in my life, I always take a little time to pay homage to Robert Kiyosaki and Kim Kiyosaki. What great members. I spent about 14 years on their advisor team, traveling all over the world. And they had me share a lot about what I'd learned so far in investing. But I have to tell you, I felt mostly like a student because the other teachers that were on that team, I learned so much from all of them. So I always just pay special tribute to those guys. And so I have to say this with Kim as well. Kim is the one who really pulled me aside many years ago. She says, "Andy, you have a passion for teaching." And I said, "Well, I'm not very good at anything else." She says, "Well, you better go teach." And that was many years ago. And shoot, now we are where we are really because of her and because of Robert Kiyosaki. So I'll give you a little bit of background about my family too. This is kind of a fun thing. This is called the cash flow game. And a lot of this Wealth Freedom event comes out of the idea of a dream. When you play the cash flow game, and my kids, my son Zach, my son David here with Robert, they started playing this at a young age. And the first thing you do is you choose a dream. And that's the outside of the board here. You choose a dream, and that's going to be your goal. But you got to get out of the rat race in the middle to get to your dream. So if you never play the cash flow game, play it. But I'll share a little fun anecdote, I suppose, as we get to know each other. See this Ferrari on the top of the cash flow game. Take a close look at that. A lot of people don't know that's actually Robert's real Ferrari. And my kids grew up rich, Dad, and he treated them like his own sons. Robert and Kim didn't have kids, so my sons, stepped in as best they could and wanted Uncle Robert to teach him. And I remember this particular day where he taught my sons the key to getting your wealth and your freedom, in this challenge is to get some financial education. He taught them about buying assets that day, but we had so much fun traveling the world and all the countries and the food and the book signings, all this fun stuff. And our home movies are a little weird now, I suppose, because, like we would travel where this one was in Argentina, for example, and my sons are, 8 and 10 years old. And Robert would call them up on stage and they just use what they learned from the cash flow game to teach financial education, how to get out of a rat race. And, it was a great way to grow up, for all those years. And they were so immersed in it. Now, I don't show you all this stuff to, show you the Tanner kids. That's not the issue. What I show this to you for is to show you that all kids are born geniuses. Okay. It isn't that my kids were brought up here to great height by any means. In fact, let's go off the slides for a bit. It wasn't that my kids were brought up to some great height. Anyone can learn this stuff. It's that the financial education was brought down to a level which they could understand. And so that's what we're going to do next week in the Wealth Freedom Challenge. Is I'm going to spend about an hour a day with you. I'm going to teach you the same things I've taught my family, the same things I've taught people all over the world. And we're going to reclaim your wealth. We're going to reclaim your freedom. And today I'm going to show you a little bit about why that's true and how you can do it. It's a myth if people think only the rich will get richer. It's a myth to think that you don't have enough time to do this. It's a myth to think that this is too complicated to understand. The problem is you'd already be well on your way had the system not failed you. And so we'll talk a little bit about this system that fails as well. I'm going to bring up a slide first. So this is put out by Vanguard. So let's put that up on the screen. And this is a report called How America Saves. And 2025 isn't over yet, so we don't have the 2025 data, but we do have the 2024. And I'm going to show you some. In fact, I'm going to bring up, I think I'll do this. I'm going to bring up the actual real report here. So let's do that. I'm going to bring this up. And let's just type in How America Saves. And this report will come up, the same Vanguard report. And we'll say, hey, I want to download the report. Here it is. And let's just pop this open here. Let's see if I can pull this off. I think if I hit that one, it'll go into a new window. Yep, there it is. So we got all these windows. Hey, that's live TV, folks. There you have it. And what I think is most interesting is if you look at the table of contents, we come down here, and it says account balances by participant demographics on page 52. This is the most important page of the report because it tells me and you where all of us are. And here we have an average, which is nice, but more important is the median. Now look at this age right here. This is what we were going to talk about. Regardless of where you are here, these numbers are not good. Let's start with the older folks and move our way down to some of our younger friends, particularly this age group of 55 to 64. So the median balance in a 401k type of plan, according to Vanguard, is $87,000. Now let's look at each other and talk about this for just a minute. Okay. $87,000. Now there's $11 trillion in 401k plans and contribution plans in my home country, the United States alone. $11 trillion. And Vanguard here, they've got about 2 trillion of it. So just under 2 trillion of it. So that's pretty good sampling for where we are. And according to those guys, much of that wealth is not looking good. $87,571 for someone who's 55 to 64. Now we'll get to the younger folks here in a minute. If you take 4% of that a year, which is what they recommend withdrawal, they say live on 4% a year and hopefully it can grow at 4%. I don't know. That's about $291 a month. That's about what that equates to a month. And $291 a month is not going to help anyone retire. So one of the things we're going to do next week, in fact, I think I might, if you want, I can do a little bit of this today. How is it that people have been in a 401k now for 40 years? Since 1978, and then in 1981, the first one was formed. The legislation was in 78, and the first one was formed in 81, January 1st. Ted Benna, Johnson Benna Company, puts out the first 401k. So for a little over 40 years, people have been doing this, and they've got enough money now where they'll get about half the people will get less than $291 per month. That's not going to work. That's not even going to let someone retire with dignity. So the question is, where'd all the money go? How in the heck can we be putting money in this dutifully? Slicing off a piece of every paycheck every 2 weeks or every month for 40 years, and we only have $87,000. I mean, where's the compounding in that? What in the heck happened to that? Well, we're going to answer that question. I'm going to start helping you understand a little bit about it today. Let's go back to the demographic. Let's look at some of the younger folks. They are faring no better. There is an advantage if you're 25 to 34, or whatever you may be, but half the people have less than 15,000. That's not a great start. That's not even a nest egg. And astounding that people could be in the workforce that long and have so little. So whether you're staring it in the face right now, which means you really got to go, I have some good news for all of you. Whether you're down here and you have a little time, or whether you're up here and you don't have a lot of time left, I have some good news for you. Is that there are things we can do to address this. So let's talk about two of them. A lot of people think that, well, it's too late for me and the rich get richer. Let me share with you the two most powerful things that'll give you some hope. There are two wealth building forces that if you approach them right way and you learn a little bit about them, you can do very well, very well. So Einstein was credited with saying this, but I don't think it was Einstein, but it could have been because it's true. That the most powerful force in the universe can be used here. The most power, and he knew about forces, right? He understood, Newtonian physics, and he understood quantum physics, and the relativity is what he brought to it. And so we're going to bring the most powerful deal, the most powerful thing in the universe, which is the compounding. And Warren Buffett credits compounding for his wealth. He says, look, it's less about intelligence and more about temperament. Once you get a little knowledge and the temperament is critical, compounding is massive. Now there's three components to compounding. There'll be the time, which some of you running out, so we better get going. There's the money. Least important part is money. You can compound from a penny. Most important is the rate and the time. Time is not something you get to change. So get going and learn to take full power of your compounding. And rate is something that is changeable with education, with different vehicles. And let me give you some help with rate here. One of the questions I get often is people say, Andy, what's a good rate? What should I look to get in the market, or get in real estate, or get in gold, or whatever asset you're in business? It ranges. If you were to ask my sons what rate they would prefer, they would say infinite return and no risk. That sounds bombastic because we have this graph that says, the more return we go for, the bigger risk we're going to take. And that's just simply, not the case when you start to deal with the numbers that get close to infinity. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that next week, is how do you really put the power of this. I can show investments in my own life that have an infinite return with zero risk. And so I'll unveil those next week. But just know that when you're dealing with compounding, you're going to apply the most powerful force in the universe. And there's a reason that the 401ks have not done this. And we'll explore that maybe here in a bit. Now, the second thing I told my sons, you have this most powerful force in the universe, and so I can hear it out there on the internet. I can hear people chirping, "Oh yeah, well, I've heard of compounding before." Well, if so, are you doing it? Are you taking advantage of it? Is it working for you if you understand it so well? What's your account look like, and how have you compounded? And so we'll investigate compounding. The second one scares everyone away. So if it scares you away, I don't know what to tell you, but it's a beautiful thing. It's like fire. You see, fire isn't good or bad. Fire's just fire. And the key with fire is what I would call utility. You use it or you don't. Now, if you don't use it, you're missing out on a lot. You can heat your house, you can cook your food, you can light your way, you can save your life from the cold hypothermia, you can chase off the bear in the woods. When man decided to use fire, it changed the world for humankind. Yeah, some people got burned. You don't play with fire, you don't play with matches. If you play with fire, you'll get burned. But we're not talking about playing with fire. We're talking about utilizing it and mastering it and controlling it. When I was an overgrown Boy Scout, I've always been an overgrown Boy Scout. One of the first things we learned was the flint and steel, and we learned how to rub sticks together, how to use all types of methods to build a fire in the woods. And we weren't playing with fire, we were mastering it. We learned how to put fires out. We learned how to contain them. We learned how to build them. We learned how to cook with them. We learned how to use them for heat, and made camping a lot nicer to sit around the light of the campfire. Well, leverage is the same. Leverage is about utility. If we look at a financial statement, and those of you that have read the book Rich Dad Poor Dad, we should know this fact. Let's bring one up. Let's bring up a financial statement. You'll notice, you have income, expenses, assets, and liabilities. And many people don't know how to use these columns. They look at them as good or bad or what have you, but the ability to utilize these columns for good and to utilize them the proper way is going to be a big part of what we talk about next week. So let's talk a little bit about utilizing leverage. That's a great 1-2 punch. That's a great 1-2 punch. On the one side, you've got the greatest force in the universe called compounding. We don't need to invent someone new. It's the most powerful force in the universe. And then with a lever long enough, you can move the world. So if a person learns how to use those things, leverage means you can do a lot with a little, and a lot with a little. And maybe you can do a little more, a lot with a little more, and then even more with even less, and then even more with even less, and do even more with even less. That's what leverage is. It allows you to do more with less, and even more with even less, until you get to the point where you can do everything with nothing. And I have to always credit Robert Kiyosaki for teaching this to me, because I never would have had the context otherwise. The idea that I could do everything with nothing, with enough compounding, enough leverage behind me, just blew my mind. And it was interesting. Many of his real estate friends and advisors, they never use any of their own money. As a matter of fact, if they lost, some of them have $1 billion under management. And if they lost all of that money, they would get it back again. Why? Well, because they can do everything with nothing. And they know that secret. You might have heard that if they took all the wealth and out of the hands of the rich and redistributed it to the poor, it would be back in the hands of the rich. That's already happened. It's called COVID. There's producers and there's consumers. And during COVID, what they did is they distribute a bunch of money. Oh, we jobs are going down, got to pay the rent. And people took all those checks they got and they consumed things. They took it right to Costco. They bought groceries. They took it, someone took it on vacation. It always goes back to the producers. The money goes back to the same hands. So what I'm going to do next week at the Wealth Freedom Challenge is we're going to talk a lot about compounding and a lot about leverage. Let's talk about compounding a little bit. Let's go back to our internet and let's type this in. Let's go to Google and let's type in, I'll show you something, compounding calculator. And I won't have time to do all of this today, but we'll do a lot of it today. Let's make this bigger on my screen. And this is from investor.gov. This is the US government site where you can learn about compounding. And we're going to talk about $1,000. And I'll do this again next week. We'll go deeper into it next week, but we just as well get an idea here. Okay. The idea here is to understand the compounding power of $1,000. Now, Marcy, if I can just talk to everybody about this for a minute. Wall Street, you're going to learn a lot about Wall Street next week. And Wall Street will not want you to tune in. I promise you that. Wall Street, they'll probably do whatever they can to stop us from broadcasting next week. Be there for sure, because I'm going to pull back the curtain and I'm going to show you some things that you had no idea was going on, hanky panky type stuff. And it's really going to be an enlightening time for you. Now, whether you want to, participate in the full challenge, it doesn't matter to me. You do what you want. But every day next week, we'll have an hour of teaching. Some of the things I'm sharing with you now, we'll go deeper. And then we're going to give you a challenge and see if you can do that challenge. We'll surprise you with them. Some of them are pretty simple. You're like, wow, that's all I got to do? Yeah. Some will be like, man, that is kind of a challenge. Well, go do it. If you like where you are right now, there's no reason to come. If you would like to improve, every reason to get registered. And I'll give you the website several times. I'll give it to you in a minute right now. In fact, I give it to you. If you like the idea of getting registered, I've got it right here. We have a partnership with Rich Dads. So you go to their site and our site. Our site to register is thecashflowacademy.com. Thecashflowacademy.com. I'll type it out and put it up in a minute. /challenge. Thecashflowacademy.com/challenge. I'll type it out here in a bit and we'll make it official. But when you get into this challenge next week, it'll be an hour a day, okay, in the afternoon. And when you get in this challenge next week, we're going to pull back the curtain and we're going to talk about Wall Street. So let's talk about this $1,000 just for a minute before we go to the screen. Wall Street doesn't care who you are. They do not care your financial education level. All they see and all they want to know is, what is the compounding power of $1,000 in this world if we put it in the market? That's it. It's called assets under management. They want to take $1,000 from you, from me, from whoever will give it to them. They're going to say, if they give us $1,000 for their whole life, what is the compounding power of it? So just understand, this has nothing to do with how they feel about you. They don't care about you. They would like you to be as dumb as possible, because if you were educated, what would you need them for? What would you need them for? So let's go back to this $1,000. That's all we're going to do here. If you would like to have wealth and freedom, think like they think, and just understand the compounding power of $1,000 with no financial education yet. Okay. We're not even going to add to it. We're going to put a big zero here. We're not even going to add to it. And the length of time in years, well, if you work from age 20 to 65, that'd be 45 years. And if they can talk you into, keeping it during your retirement years, that'd be another 20 till 85 when you died. So 20 to 85 would be their goal. They want assets under management from you for 65 years or more. Now, the interest rate doesn't matter to them. They know that historically, the market is averaged about 8%, and they're not going to mess with that. They don't care. That's so important for you to understand. They don't care. They know what has happened in the past. They expect this to happen in the future. Even if it doesn't, they don't care. Now, I'm going to put a variance on this of 2.5%, and we'll have a chance to talk more about this next week. So if this math freaks you out, well, we'll go into the numbers a little better next week, but we'll calculate this. And we know that Wall Street says, okay, if I can take, Joe Smith's money, or Joe Blow, or John Q. Public, whoever it is, 65 years, that $1,000 turns into 148,000. So here we see this. Maybe I can blow this up bigger. I don't know if it'll let me. Let's see if I can work with my little computer skills here. So if you look at the red line right here, that value is the 8% we had. And at 8%, it's 148,000. Now, if a person did 2.5% better, in other words, not 8%, but 10.5, they'd be at 658,000. But the market average has been at 8 for 148,000. If I go down here to 5.5, let's say a person does 2% worse, your compounding is cut by about $110,000. Everybody see that? It goes from 148 to 32. So 116, we'll just round it down to $110,000 is lost if compounding drops from the 8% that it should be to the 5.5. Remember that. Remember that. We'll bring it up again next week. Let's show the table. And we're going to do this multiple times now and next week. So $1,000 at 8% gives you 1,080. But $1,000 at 5.5% gives you 1,055. So this is on your entire account, right? And it compounds at these two different rates. And compounds. We know for a fact, year by year, that from age 20 to 85, that's 65 years of investing, that there's $148,000 that's made. That is the compounding power of $1,000 at 8% over a person's life. That's what it is. And Wall Street knows that. Well, if a person only does 5.5, they're at 30 grand. That's $110,000 listed difference. Now, why do I bring that up? Well, I'm glad you asked why I bring that up. I'll bring it up right here. This is John Bogle. So there's this old story, and I'll just tell the story to the camera. There's an old story of a king. And the king had a bunch of artisans come to bid a project. You want to make a beautiful carving out of stone. These artisans would carve stone. And the one guy charged a lot. The next guy charged a lot. And the next guy says, I'll work for you every day for a month. I can get the thing done in 30 days. The first day I'll charge you a penny, sire. That's all. And the second day I'll charge you 2 pence. The third day I'll charge you 4 pence. And the fourth day I'll charge you 8 pence. And the fifth day I'll charge you 16 pence. And on Saturday I'll charge you 32. And on Sunday I'll charge you 64. And we'll just keep doing that for the month. And he's like, Cal, I'm not even to $1 yet. You have the job. Well, if you compound a penny, at that rate, rather than taking 10 G's up front, you got $10 million by the time that compounds, $10 million by the end of 30 days. So Wall Street understands that compounding, as I've said, is the most powerful force in the universe. Now, earlier I gave you a report from Vanguard, and they said, look, there's $11 trillion of people's money out there. We've got $2 trillion of it ourselves under management. And yet, when you look at the individual like you, young or old, the young guys had $15,000, and those of us who are a little bit further along, they had less than 87,000, which is about $291 a month. So where'd all the money go? If compounding is so wonderful, then why is it that BlackRock seems to get rich and Vanguard seems to get rich and Fidelity seems to get rich? How come this concentration of wealth is getting in fewer and fewer hands, and the poor guy in the 401k doesn't have anything? Well, the secret is I laugh because people poo-poo. They'll come on the live stream, maybe, so he's just talking about compounding. I understand that, and they move on. I don't think they do, and I certainly don't think they know what I'm about to show you and what we're going to do at the Wealth Freedom Challenge next week. I certainly know that most people don't know what I'm about to share. So let's go to this guy. This is John Bogle, the late John Bogle. He passed away a few years ago, one of my great mentors and heroes. And he calls this 401k thing, he calls it robbery. That's his words, not mine. He is the founder of Vanguard, one of the world's largest mutual fund organizations, and the author of The Battle for the Soul of Capitalism, which addresses, quote, how the financial system undermines social ideas damaged trust in the markets, and robbed investors of trillions of dollars. If that's true, okay, and if that's true, that's the biggest heist in human history. No one's knocked off an armored car or stagecoach for trillions of dollars. Trillions, plural. This $11 trillion is floating around there. Wall Street, in his words, has stolen it. It's robbery. Look at this. He also uses the word tyranny. These are tyrants and robbers, not my words, his. And he calls it the tyranny of compounding cost. Now, this is where people do not understand why their wealth has been stolen and why their freedom's been stolen. So, we'll go through these numbers in more detail next week, because I guarantee you when you see them, you'll have two reactions. Number one, you get angry. And number two, a lot of people, it's too big for their brain. It was too big for my brain. It was too big for most brains. I've taught this for 20 years, and most brains can't handle it. So we will get into these numbers more next week. So brace yourself. Let's take a look. He was in an interview and someone said, okay, John, wait a minute. If I do this average you talk about, what percent of my growth goes into the fees? And remember, these are compounding costs. He says, well, this is awesome for Wall Street. Let me give you a little long-term example. The example I use in my book is an individual who's 20 years old today, starting to accumulate for retirement. That person has 45 years to go before retirement happens, age 20 to 65. Sound familiar? And then if you believe the actuarial tables, which we do, this person has another 20 years to go before death mercifully brings his or her life to a close. So this is a mercy killing in their view, apparently. So you basically have 65 years investing, right? 20 to 65, and then another 20 years before they die. 65 years investing. If you invest that $1,000 we talked about, at the beginning of that time, you get 8% of that. $1,000 grows to around $140,000. Now, we did the math exactly, and we saw that it was 148, right? He's rounding to 140. Fair enough. Let's continue. Now, the financial system, the mutual fund system in this case, they'll take about 2.5 percentage points out of that return. Okay, now watch what happens here. So you will have a gross return of 8% and a net return of 5.5%. So your $1,000 will grow to approximately 30 grand. $110,000 goes to the financial system, and $30,000 goes to you, the investor. Think about that. Well, let's think about that. That's exactly what the math on our compounding calculator showed. We took $1,000 from age 20 to 65, then 65 to 85 for 65 years. 8% is what the market gives. The market doesn't care. They're not going to try to beat it. They don't even try to beat it. If they take 2.5% out of that, then you're going to be compounding at 5.5. In other words, every year, yeah, you get 80, but then you give what? You give them fees, so you actually wind up compounding at a rate of $55, 5.5%, rather than the 8%, right? That's a big deal, okay? Huge deal. There's $148,000 compounded because the market did deliver 8%, but you only got 32 of it. And so, as Bogle says, $110,000 goes to the financial system and 30 grand to you investor. I'd be interesting to see if we have any comments on that. I don't get to see the chat, but tell me, Jeff, or people, I can't multitask the YouTube, but give me some of the feedback on what people are saying about that. I guarantee you there are things. How many of you guys know that there are just things that happen? Okay, there are things that go on behind the scenes that people do not understand. Now, let me talk to you about where people often go with this. This is not about Bitcoin or gold, index funds or ETFs, mutual funds or stocks, bonds or real estate or business. Not about that. This is, see, people always want to go to the culture of advice. Tell me what to buy. Tell me what to buy. What that culture does is make you in bondage to the people who run these funds, regardless of what kind. We are not anti gold. We're not anti real estate. We're not anti stocks. We're not anti anything. We're anti ignorance. And that is the issue a person needs to ask, is not which asset am I going to go after? Am I satisfied with this asset, this asset? No. The question I have for you is, are you satisfied with your current level of financial education? And do you feel you know all of these assets inside and out, like the people that are selling them to you? And the answer to that, I'll leave up to you. But it is essential that you ask yourself this question: what is the function of wealth? Is it a function of taking advice from this guy or cousin-in-law, or is it a function of developing the skills and the knowledge of financial education? That's a great question. Let's go back to Bogle. Think about that. That means the financial system's putting up 0% of the capital. They take 0% of the risk. They get 80% of the return. You invest in this long time period. You put up 100% of the capital, take 100% of the risk, only 20% of the return. Now, some people are really going to struggle with that math. Well, I told you you'd have two emotions. Number one, you'd be angry. So is that happening right now? And number two, you think, how could this possibly be? And so what we're going to do next Monday, when we start the challenge on next Monday, a week from now, is we're going to take you through that math year by year. In fact, we have an opportunity. Our VIP members, I'll send it to them in advance, and they can see how it's broken down year by year. And they'll understand that math probably for the first time in their life. And there's a reason. And if you just look at the results, it begins to make more sense, doesn't it? Doesn't make sense when you try to figure it out the first time. How could this be? But when you look at the size of BlackRock and the size of Vanguard and the size of Fidelity and how they become tremendously wealthy, is because they take the lion's share of the compounding. Check this out. What's interesting is that little 2.5% that they takes your compounding from 8 to 5.5. That puts you at that 32 when there was actually 148 made. They take $116,000, about 110 grand of that for them. And that is the secret. I'm going to take you through this math. We won't have time to do it today, but I'm going to take you through it step by step. And you're going to see that we cannot afford to take the lion's share of this compounding and give it to them. Okay. So that's a big deal. So how many of you would like to change that? Number one is, here's the question: would you like to take back that compounding power, and would you like to increase it? I said earlier that if you ask my sons, what would be a good return? Infinite return, which means you'd have no money in the deal. You could do everything with nothing. Now, someone's going to say, how can you do everything with nothing? How can there be an infinite return with no risk? How can you make money without putting anything in? Well, I will remind you. Let's go back a slide. I'll remind you. Here we go. Think about that. That means the financial system put up 0% of the capital and took 0% of the risk, got 80% of the money. Time out. If they put in nothing, they get everything in that huge part of that growth by putting in nothing. So these financial concepts are known to the rich. They're known to people that understand infinite return with no risk, which is exactly what the 401k program does for Wall Street. They put in none of the money, they take none of the risk, and their rate of return is infinite. Because if you divide by zero, you don't even need to be a mathematician to know that if you put division by zero in your calculator, it breaks it. It's an undefined number. It's infinite. This is how, this is faster than light speed. This is why, because everybody's, all the workers are putting into the system, and they're really taking 2% of the S&P 500 every year and compounding. Well, if you take 2% of the S&P 500 away from everybody every year through fees, you're going to own most of the equities, which is why BlackRock and Vanguard and these guys get insanely huge. And the average guy, more than half people, they have less than $291 a month coming. And it's because of a lack of financial, don't get me going here. Don't get me going. It is because of a lack of financial education that people allow themselves to be bamboozled. They allowed themselves to be bamboozled by these numbers because they do not understand how infinite return and no risk works. So they become a victim of it. Now, here's a question. Can you do this? You know, well, if you look at the Spiver report, 92% of the funds underperform the S&P if they're actively managed. What that means is, and this varies from 89 to about 93 as I've seen it over the years. Here on this chart over the past 15 years, 92% of them suck worse than the S&P 500. So here you're in a retirement system. No wonder dreams are being shattered. No wonder there's no wealth or freedom. No wonder we want to have a wealth freedom challenge to fix this. Is if 92% of the funds, the S&P versus the index funds, if 93% of these are failing, right? 93% of them failing, whoops. And Wall Street's taking the lion's share of the money and Wall Street takes zero risk, there's got to be something wrong with that picture. Would you be in agreement with that? That's a huge, huge thing. And so this is a huge deal, okay? Huge deal. Now, the question is simply this, and I'll come back to this again. I've got some interesting chats coming in here. It's like you don't need to trust me. Go trust yourself. I mean, if you're already wealthy and you've got this thing all figured out, then I won't argue with you, right? I'm not going to argue. I will just say this: if people want to worry about this fund or that fund, or this gold or this Bitcoin or this real estate or that debt or that business or these stocks, I don't think they I don't think they got the point. The question to ask yourself is this: are you satisfied with what you know with your own results in financial education right now? Are you really crushing it right now? Do you feel you're one of those people that are crushing it? Do you look at the growth of what you're doing in your life and feel like, yeah, I'm in line to be one of these guys that's just killing it. I'm just compounding my way to heaven. I'm going to show you examples next week of infinite return and no risk, of investments and projects and different things that you do where it's phenomenal compounding, and you need to look no further. If you can learn the flaws of these types of investments, and you can see with the new lighting how they work, then you can turn the tables and you can start to apply these things for yourself as opposed to being a victim of. Does that make sense, everybody? And I'm not here to I'm not here to save anybody. This is a challenge. Let me just speak to you a little bit about the word challenge. I'm about to get canceled any moment. I can feel it because the world does not. I mean, we have students in 170 countries, about 250,000 people listen to what we do, and there's billions on the earth. So I'm not expecting to have billions of people show. We're expecting thousands and thousands of people show. The elite, the people who really care about it. I've kind of, having done this for 30 years, I've kind of lost my desire to sell it to people and try to convince people, mostly my own family, of saying, please be wealthy, please learn these things, right? It's not how it works. The word challenge is so frightening to most people. The very fact you're listening to me right now, I give you a big nod. I give you big congratulations again, as I did at the top of the hour, because a person who is willing to take on a challenge in this day and age, few and far between. Most people hear messages of easy, messages of no work, of quick, no, all that type of stuff. It's about process. It's about discipline, and let the compounding and let the leverage work for you consistently, and you'll see the rewards. You'll see them come. But I get in trouble when I start talking about things that are challenging. It's kind of like I tell my sons, hey, pull your own weight. Stand on your own 2 feet. Ask not what the country can do for you. Ask what you do for this fantastic country that we live in, or the country you live in. What can you do to make things better? So next week is not about advice. So if you want me to tell you, buy the Bitcoin, buy the gold, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing it. This is about people want to get smarter. The reason I have such a great relationship with, Rich Dad Company is because their mission is the same as mine. It's to elevate the financial well-being of humanity. Anywhere in the world you are, is to get you smarter and elevate your well-being. Well, I'll give you some confidence. Would you guys like some confidence? The greatest investor in the world is Warren Buffett. Let's listen to what he has to say. The ultimate irony of the investment business, and it really is the ultimate irony. The ultimate irony of the investment business is there's no question that an obstetrician will deliver babies better than a husband or wife can. And if you take dentists as a whole, they'll remove teeth or fill teeth better than if the patients try to do it themselves. Fair enough. But in the investment world, somebody, meaning you, meaning me, someone who believes in American business and will seek out the lowest way to participate in that business and be consistent, they will achieve results that exceed those of investment professionals as a group. It is the only industry I can think of where the professional's efforts subtract value from what the layman can do himself. That is a Warren Buffett mic drop right there. So much in there. What does it mean to participate in American business at the lowest level, right? The lowest way to participate. What does that mean? What does it mean to subtract value from what the layman could do himself? Well, we saw a little bit of that, didn't we? So the truth is simply this. Warren Buffett believes you can do it. I believe you could do it. Do you believe you could do it? Well, what are the challenges? There'll be 5 of them next week. After each individual session, I'm going to give you simple tasks to do to challenge yourself, habits, practices, things to learn, things to fill out, plans to build. What we're going to do with the Wealth Freedom Challenge, let me go back up to the title slide. The purpose of the Wealth Freedom Challenge is to reclaim your retirement dream. That's what it's for, is to get you back on track, to get your hands dirty, to get yourself involved, and to get back on track. That's what we're here to do, is get back on track. That's it. So the first thing that you got to understand is one of the results that you'll receive in this Wealth Freedom Challenge is you'll have a plan. Now, there are several types of plans. A good wealth plan resembles a battle plan, going to war. You're fighting for financial freedom. You're fighting for your wealth. A good plan resembles an escape plan from the rat race, getting out of a current situation and elevating your well-being to a new situation. It's escaping the present situation. It's a personal development plan. It's a plan where you get smarter in your mind. You get better habits. A lot of these challenges I'll be giving you next week of the 5 days are simple habits where you'll do it for the first time. And we have a Facebook group. It's a private group. I'll show you how to join it here in a bit. Private group. In fact, let's just put this on here. I'm going to do this. Day one's going to start. Let me put this here. It is let's see if I can do this right. There's no space there. Cash Flow academy.com/challenge, like that. That's not it. Challenge. Hopefully I got that right. My guys know, my whole team panics every time I start to type. They're like, are you serious? Andy's going to type. That could be absolutely frightening, right? So no space. You see, they're getting me right there. No space, Andy. The cashflowacademy.com/challenge. You can join our Facebook group. I expect you to get in the Facebook group. In fact, put that back up if you would. Give them a chance to see it. And I don't know if we can put that out in the chat or not. I'm sure we probably could. But get in that Facebook group and tell me what your dream is, and I will see how big it is. And I'm going to challenge you this. No dream is too big. On day one, on Monday, I'm going to show you how to turn that dream into a project. I'm going to show you on day one how to turn that dream into a project. And we're going to dive deeper into this 401k mess. And whether you're in Australia and it's the super, or whether you're in Canada and it's the RSP, or whether you're in my home country, the United States, 401k, I'm going to take you behind the scenes and show you why the people that sponsor these plans make money and why you don't, and how you can turn the tables on it. Would that be fun? And I'm going to turn your dream into a project that we can go. The day two, we're going to map a clear path from A to Z. You will have, like, one of the problems with the 401k is that people put money into it not knowing what it's going to look like in 40 years. And they have no idea whether they're progressing well or not. They have no, it's like, oh, I'm 65 now what? And that's not how a wealth plan works. We're going to make this where it can be measurable week to week, and you'll know whether you're on track or not and how to adjust. So after on Monday, we get your dream defined and we get it into a project rather than just a dream. Then we're going to build scaffolding. We're going to map that goes from A to Z and get you there. That's it. And you'll be able to use some of our online tools to do this, and you'll be able to choose your own timeline. If you want to do it in 10 years, 15 years, 5 years, whatever, we'll map that out on whatever it is you want. Day three, let's talk about it. I'm going to give you my number one habit for freedom and wealth. Number one thing you can do that will change your life, a huge habit. And then in addition, I'll talk to you a little bit about my team. So these are separate things. Absolutely. I'm going to teach this. I'm going to challenge you this. They're separate things, but it's a team sport. And I'll share with you who I have on my team, who are the key players on my team. But far more importantly, you're going to begin the number one habit of freedom and wealth on day three. And I know you're not doing this, or you would already have freedom and wealth. This is a habit. Day four, we're going to start talking about assets and how to buy them. And I'm going to give you some secrets to faster compounding. Let's talk about index funds for a minute. So, these numbers are based on, how the S&P does. That's how Wall Street does it. Look, we don't want to just throw it in the market, and we don't have to babysit it. We'll just take 2% of the S&P every year. And if we take 2% of the S&P every year through fees, eventually we'll own all of it. All we got to do is take 2% of it every single year. And that's how they operate. That's why they are who they are, which is unfortunate. When you listen to Warren Buffett speak, he if you study him at all, you'll realize he talks to people in two groups, very distinct domains. Group number one, ignorant. Group number two, financially educated. For example, group number one, he'll say, buy an index fund and pray, but don't give your money to Wall Street because they'll take all the fees. Don't do actively managed, just put it in there and pray. Good luck to you. But to the other group, he says, never diversify, never do that. So how does Warren Buffett talk out both sides of his mouth? Because I can give you quotes of both. It's because of, you always got to know who he's addressing. And he says, the late Charlie Munger says, diversification, that's the answer to ignorance. He says, in our view, it's a confession that the guy doesn't know what he's doing. Why would you put money into number 30 on your list of attractiveness instead of putting more money towards number one? These people don't understand business ownership. They don't understand how to find assets. So what I'm going to do is I'll give you both pictures, and then you can make a better choice for yourself. And I'll show you what I do in my life to compound faster, to where your cash flow is either double or triple out of the gate of what ordinary investors, these other group, gets. And I'll show you how that's done. I'll show you how to do it conservatively. I'll show you how to make the decisions. That'll be day four. Okay, day five is really fun. We have a proven method. Let's take a look at this slide. Day five, proven method to find and then buy your assets. And we have this thing called click and get paid. So let me tell you about click and get paid. Real click and get paid. Taught this to my sons on day one. During COVID, my older son had just finished the 8th grade. I says, we're not going to burn our 9th grade year, our freshman year basketball in a COVID year where they're not playing. That ain't happening. So my home state luckily gives me the power to pull them out. And we said, pause. We're just going to pause them for a year. You can go to 9th grade next year. This year we're doing homeschool. And it was amazing. We did a year of financial education from 8th to 9th. Paused it. Gap year. And it was phenomenal. And on day one in September, I taught my son click and get paid. And he clicked the mouse and money came to his account of me. He says, Andy, he said, Dad, are you serious? I said, there's the money. It's in your account, son. And we taught him how to do it. I'm going to teach you how to click and get paid. If you're successful with the challenge, you should join the club where you'll have the opportunity to learn about a new income stream that's click and get paid. So every month, Did it this month, do it every month. Every month I click a mouse and we get extra income, accelerated compounding, faster compounding into our lives. And if you can steal back from Wall Street, if you can take back that, whatever they charge, 1, 2, half, whatever it is, and then you can add a couple more percent, you'll be blown away at the challenge when you're really compounding for real. And we'll teach you a little bit about levers and leverage for real and respecting that and mastering it, not taking a lot of risk. Well, this has been a fantastic hour to spend together. Okay. I'm going to put this up one more time. There's so much to learn from my team. Corey and Noah will be there. We make this fun, simple, and real. We have students in 170 countries. We'll show you how to start small. We'll show you how to get golden geese that lay golden eggs, not just gold that goes up and down. There's so much to do all of these days right here. It's going to be huge. So last opportunity to register. And you can also become a VIP. You can learn more about that at thecashflowacademy.com/challenge. And we're going to be there next week. We're going to start Monday. It's 1 hour a day. You'll see the times. Go ahead and keep that up there if you would, Marsh, so they can get there. I'm going to emphasize there's no charge to come. This is going to be a free event, which most of the things we like to do are not free. So this is a rare opportunity to interact with my team. I'm going to teach you for 1 hour every day, and then I'm going to give you a challenge, an assignment to be done, a new habit to develop, a homework to do for the challenge. And by the end of that 5 days, you'll understand what it is to click and get paid. You'll understand what it is to how to look at an asset, how I look at assets. I'll show you the power of cash flow rather than guessing the direction of capital gain. We'll be doing this based on cash flow. I'm going to tear apart the retirement program, 401k, RSP, super. It's all the same. I'm going to tear those apart. I'm going to go further in those numbers. I'm going to pull back the curtain even more, show you things you had no idea were occurring, no idea were going on. It's going to be so much fun, so simple, so awesome. So go to thecashflowacademy.com/challenge. And I'll just tell you one more time, clear your schedule, get it there. It's going to be in the middle of the day, depending on your time zone. You can get all the information on the website. I'm going to leave this up here for just a couple more minutes when I finish. But I will just say this has been great to spend a little time with you on YouTube live stream. First one I've ever done. Seems like it worked out okay. Didn't have too many complaints, too many problems. Be there on Monday. Register now, and I'll see you on the inside. Let's go ahead and put that back up for a couple more minutes, and we'll be out.